this is Renee from Meadowlark Mystic, and I'm doing my Tarot and Oracle Collection video series. This is video number 3, drawer number 3, and the first one that I'm starting with is Soul Cards 1. This is an entirely intuitive deck. You read based on what you see. I believe the artist used their fingers to draw these pictures, so it's a very tactile experience. And yeah, it's a very powerful deck, I'd say, because whatever you bring to the deck, it reflects it back to you in certain ways. So, you know, if you're coming to it with a lot of fear, then you might see some more scary images. If you're coming to it with a lot of joy, you know, you might see something else. So it's very interesting in that way. The next deck in this drawer is the, well, I keep it in this box. It's the perfect, it's not the Enchanted Tarot. All my boxes are a little, I don't know. Anyway, this is the Witch's Tarot. The Witch's Tarot. I really like this deck. It is just the right amount of campy, but also it's got some different interpretations of the cards. So, you know, the Five of Swords, which I really appreciate. I think I've shared on my channel before that when I first saw this deck, I thought it was kind of cringy. I don't know. I just didn't like it. But then the more I saw it, the more I was like, huh. And, you know, like this person looks so much like the character in Alias, that old TV show. So anyway, all that to say, I really like this deck. It's a good reader. It's an older deck, but it does have some inclusive cards, which I really appreciate from older decks. And it's got this like fashion vibe going on. Yeah, actually, so I really do like this deck. That's the Witch's Tarot, and these are the beautiful backs. It came in a big box, and I don't usually keep my decks in the big boxes like that. The next deck is the Arcana Tarot playing cards. Who's this guy? I forgot. It's a, well, Arcana playing. I guess you could probably just Google it. This is a super duper slippery deck. I saw this deck on Kelly from the Truth and Stories channel. Oops. And yeah, it gives really interesting readings. And it is, you know, so it's a playing card, but then it has also the quartz and the majors. The box is a little tricky sometimes, but okay, that is the Arcana playing cards. The next one is the Modern Spellcasters. I keep it in this old Apple iPhone box. And this, the world that this deck depicts also reminds me a little bit of the Witch's Tarot. Kind of like parallel worlds. I really like this deck so much. I've talked about it on my channel a lot. Unfortunately, the guidebook that goes with it is not good because it doesn't explain a lot of the deep symbols that are in the cards. You know, there's runes in some of the cards. There's astrological symbols. There's a lot going on, like this one, for example. There's a lot going on. So if you really wanted to understand this deck, you'd probably, like on a deeper level, you'd probably have to do a deep dive in terms of the symbols. I got this deck in a trade, and then, but the copy that I got in the trade was not very good. So I liked this deck so much that I bought a new copy, which is saying a lot because I usually don't do that. So that's the Modern Spellcasters. I mean, I buy new decks, but I liked it so much I wanted a new copy, so I donated the other one. The next deck is an Oracle deck. It's the She Who Watches Oracle by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. Oops. She's the one that has done a lot of the other decks that I showcased, the Minoan and the Dark Goddess and stuff. So this is a beautiful deck, and it's very, so Ellen Lorenzi Prince lives in a place called the Dales, and she has researched a lot of the native people in the area, their myths and stories, and incorporated them into this really beautiful oracle. And in case you are, I'll just leave these two up here in case anyone was interested in that. That is the She Who Watches Oracle by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. And the next deck is this is a handmade deck. And here it is just a majors only, hand painted. And he refers to it as the Black Tarot. You can see that it's bowed quite a bit. If I kept it probably on a heavy book, probably wouldn't have done that. But I just love this deck so much. And so that is the Black Tarot. It's a majors only handmade deck. The next one is the Tarot First Light. I'll keep it in this pouch. This is a funny deck. It has the majors and then other cards. The images are from space. I think the Hubble telescope, but maybe other ones. Obviously, they've been kind of like cleaned up and colored. But it has keywords. Oops. So this is an example of one of the majors. It has keywords, so the 12 Hanged Man Crossroads, and then it has keywords here. But then for some other cards, I don't think, let me see. I need to find a card that's like number 4, Children Lessons. I don't think that's referencing I don't think this one is referencing the Emperor. So it's kind of like a majors tarot with an oracle attached to it. So anyway, I really like it. I really like it. I dig it. That's the First Light Tarot. Cardstock is, it's okay, but it's fine, whatever. And then the next one is the Vibrant Spirit Tarot. You know, it's funny. I usually, and this is a handmade box that I got on Etsy. I usually don't like it when the creators put the name of the deck on the card backs, which is what she did, but I actually appreciate it because otherwise I probably would forget what the name of this deck is. I got it from her when she actually wasn't selling it anymore. I think this is a copy that had a slight defect in it. It has keywords. I love to read this deck with the First Light Tarot, which is the tarot I just showed. The spacey vibe of that deck plus this one, I really like it. This deck is long out of print. So, yeah, but there are other decks that kind of have this aesthetic, the line drawing. So you could probably approximate it with another deck. I know there are quite a few oracles that have this kind of feel that I would like to get, but I don't have them. This next deck is, it's called the Tarot Pack. It's Caroline Smith and John Astrop. They did the Moon Oracle too. These are the backs. This has been trimmed and edged. I like this deck because it's a pip deck, but I just love her art so much. And oh, this is another deck. This is another deck that I've colored. I've added color to the cards. Not mostly the cards that have the court or the majors. I've added color, not really the pips. Yeah, I added a lot of color to this card. Yeah, you know, I was just in a phase where I wanted to, I don't know, I love this card, make things mine. So that's the, yeah, the Tarot Pack. I'm not really sure what the name of the actual deck is. And I keep it in this pouch because it came in a big box. Okay, the next one in this drawer is the beloved Margaret Peterson. This is the edition that just had the regular white borders. And I trimmed it, and the little white book on this deck is amazing. The art is amazing. I think you could probably work with this deck forever and still find new things in the art, especially the court cards and the minors. They're so layered and textured that I find that when I look again, I'll see something new that I didn't see before. I agree that the newer edition with the maroon borders is really pretty, and it actually really changes the kind of feel of the deck, but I couldn't justify getting another one. So this one is, you know what, I can't remember the name of this one, but I'll put it in the description box. It's like the Celtic, the Celtic Oracle or something. So it's got numbers, and then it's got keyword, and then under here, you can't really see it. It's got work, daily labor, and the workplace. This deck, I like this this artist's work, and that's why it's by Keen, Maggie Keen. I think I mentioned I showed her work with the Old English Tarot. But I will put the title of this deck because I've spaced out and I keep it in this pouch. So the light from the window is now creating a kind of crazy shadow. Yeah. You could read this deck directionally because it's circular. I also have the a tree oracle by the same artist that I will be showing. I think I will be showing. Where is that deck? So sometimes when I take the decks out of their bags, out of their boxes, it gets a little hard to find them. This is the Fairy Tale Oracle by Lucy Cavendish and Jasmine Beckett Griffith. I would say that Kasha from Tarot Map is the reason that I decided to give the Big-Eyed Girls art a chance, and I found it pretty compelling. But I would say when I first came into the tarot community, I was super turned off by these images. And I do think it has to do with some shadow work I still have to do. Yeah, like this deck. The cardstock is super shiny and really sticky, so not a big fan of that, but that is the Fairy Tale Oracle. Okay, the next one is the... Shoot, I can't remember the name of this one either. I'll have to put it in the description box. It's out of print, I think. Actually, I don't know. This deck was the first edition, and it was trimmed. And I think the this is the artist that has done that red tarot. I should have researched this more, but I'm just trying to get this out there so people can enjoy it. But I will put this one and the other title in the description box. I'll set them out. It's like oculi. Anyway, some kind of mystical, magical name. I really like this deck. It's beautiful. It reminds me a little bit of the efflorescent tarot that I talked about before that I wished I'd gotten. And I actually got this deck as a gift from another tarot tube person, and I really cherish it because she gave it to me. Okay. Yeah, I'll set this one out so that I'll set these two out so I can put the title in the description box. Okay, the next one is the Circle of Life Tarot. I really like this deck so much. It is such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful reader. The good thing about doing videos like this is the sun is like blasting through the window. You get to see your decks again. You know, some of them that have been in the drawer for a while, and you just kind of fall in love again. I think Tracy and I were talking about that. So, this is gonna be a problem. I was like, oh, I wish the sun would come up, and now I'm like, oh. Anyway, it's a beautiful deck. It reads really well. It's a little tricky because of to flip through because of the circular nature of it. I really love the depictions in this deck. And yeah, I think Lisa from Caradwyn's Cauldron, I saw this deck on her channel. I saw how she was reading with it, and I was like, whoa, yeah. But that was a while ago. Okay, so this box, I keep some Ted Andrews decks in. So the first one is the Animal Wise. Yes, Ted Andrews Animal Wise. These are the backs. I really don't like them, but whatever. They're stretched out. I've talked about this deck quite a bit on my channel. I think it's out of print. This is trimmed, but you can still get the French edition. And I think it's a slightly different, it's like pink. It's got more fancy borders. Yeah, this deck is just kind of his photography, so some of it's not the greatest, but I really love this deck for the keywords, and I should go a little bit lower. It's a very powerful deck. It's a great reader. I go to this deck when I'm feeling really tender because it always has such positive messages. That's the Animal Wise. I think I have all of his decks, but I don't have his. I wish I'd gotten those little tokens. What are they called? This is the next one. Woo! The Nature Speak Oracle. This is also a really, really good deck. And yeah. You know, sometimes the kind of old school photography, I don't know, puts you in touch with, if you're an older person, puts you in touch with when you were a kid. So that is the Nature Speak Oracle. Those are both by Ted Andrews. I keep them in this kind of old apple box. And then this other box, I keep two decks that I really like to read together. The Star Tarot, which is trimmed. It's the older edition. Wow, that light. This is the backs. I would say the only thing wrong with this deck, this is fully trimmed, is the cardstock. It's so shiny. But then again, it makes the art really amazing. This deck is really beautiful. It has kind of a thoth leaning to some of the cards, but I really love it. It's a great reader. And I particularly like to read it, so that's the Star Tarot. I particularly like to read it with the Raven's Prophecy. I don't exactly know how I got the two of these together, but yeah, it's something about the dark and the light. So this is a trimmed version of the Raven's Prophecy. If you do trim this deck, just be careful of the Universe card, which is interesting because that's the same problem with the Gaian Tarot, the Schiffer edition. I trimmed the Gaian Tarot and it's the Universe card. The image is much smaller than all of the other cards, and that's true in this deck as well. So if you're gonna trim, you really have to watch and make sure that all the images are the same size. And in this deck, they're not. And in the Gaian Tarot, they were not. I love this deck. It's a beautiful deck. Sometimes I think, I wonder if I should have kept the orange borders on them. I have a complicated relationship with orange. It's one of my favorite colors, although I don't ever like to wear it myself. Okay, so actually that is that whole drawer. That is a much smaller drawer. And then I'm going to show you some of the decks that I have just in pouches right here. So this is the Osho Zen. I keep it in this pouch. This is an older edition. It's got really great cardstock. I know that this deck is problematic for some of its depictions of some people take issue with this image because it's giving a psychological diagnosis to something in a tarot reading. And then I know that Space Between the Notes referenced that there's some pretty strong anti-Semitic depictions in here, and so I don't ever post this deck on social media, but personally in my own practice it's a very deep, and it has had a lot of healing energy to me. So, and then of course the teacher Osho was really problematic in a lot of ways. So yeah, just proceed with caution, and decide if it's something that you want to. I had this deck before I knew about those things. So this deck, the Prairie Tarot, the Hodorovsky, Marseille, there's certain decks that they're problematic due to things that maybe I wasn't aware of when I bought them. And then I have to decide, well, should I keep it? Should I not? This is the Grail Tarot. Keep it in this fancy bag. These are the backs. I got this deck because of the crazy collage / journey that you go on when you're in this deck. This is by John Matthews. And yeah, it's intense, but the Grail whole thing is pretty intense. The green orbs. I used to have the Golden Tarot by Cat Black, which reminds me a lot of this deck, but I found that I had to talk myself into reading with that deck. So then I was like, why do you have a deck that you don't really like? This is the, what's in here? Thoth. Another deck from a maybe problematic creator, Aleister Crowley. You know, he had some controversial ideas, but the deck is so foundational to many people's practices that, you know, here the deck is. So, you know, you just have to decide what works for you and in your practice. I would say that if a deck is very offensive to certain populations, yeah, definitely best to question why you have that deck in your collection, and also maybe not post on social media. But that's just my own, those are just some of my own musings about it. I'm certainly not here to tell you what to do, but you know, this is my channel, so I'm telling you what I do. That's the Thoth, and it was trimmed. This is a funny deck because I was scared of this deck. I didn't want to get it for a while because I was like, ooh. But it's actually really a great reader, and it likes to, my Thoth likes to read with other decks. And kind of the sillier decks. This is the Tree Spirit Tarot. I like the keywords. I like the different suits that she created. I'm pretty sure Tarot Map has an interview with the woman who created this deck. So you could check that out. Oops. And she has a separate book you can buy to go with the deck, which I've been meaning to get, but I didn't. Ooh, look at all the look at all the dust. Because it's in it is in a pouch. This is the Mystical Dream Tarot. And this will be the last one I'm gonna do. This deck is so powerful. When I do readings with this deck, it's usually 2, maybe 3 cards. I'll max out at 3 cards because it's so intense for me. I've done a lot of heavy readings with this deck. And yeah. Once you do some heavy readings with this deck, it's like imprinted with those. And so when you see the cards, you're going to remember the readings. That's why I'm like, oh, when I'm looking at this deck. Oh, yeah. Very different interpretations. Like that's the 5 Swords. I think every time I talk about this deck, I look at that. But it's cool and weird and very strong. So, oh, I'm going to do one more, actually, if I can reach it. So the sun is streaming through the window, and that's why it looks like I live in just a giant dust ball. Oh, actually 2 more. No, I'll just do this one. So this is the Enchanted Tarot, but instead of the giant version, this is the mini by Amy Zerner. And I've had this for a long time. The cardstock is awful, so I have to be really careful with it. You know, I had the 25th anniversary of this deck, which is gigantic, and then I guess I don't really like super large decks, although the Nature Spirit, the Independent was huge, and I love that deck. But I prefer this one in small, in this small version. This is the Enchanted Tarot. Yeah, it's funny, when I first came to the tarot community, I was like, ugh, I don't like collage. And then I changed my mind, and then I actually did a collage deck myself. Okay, so that's drawer number 3 of my tarot and oracle collection. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you again soon. Bye.